Thank you so much for tuning in to Exit Ready. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We're going to unpack ways for you to make your company more valuable so that when you get ready to exit, you can get the most money possible. Now to the show. Ryan, it is good to talk to you. It's been, well, it's first time all year probably, but it's still in January. But it's been a long time since we got to catch up, man. How's it going?
Ryan, it's been a while too, man. It's good to hear from you and appreciate the time that you've given me here.
Well, you're the legend in this world. You've got almost 31,000 subs on YouTube, so you're the big dog here. So I gotta bow to you.
I don't know about that. You'll get there eventually, man. I'm trying. YouTube is a very tough game to crack. It's,
Yeah.
consistency and just one video at a time.
Yeah, and are you still publishing? We'll link to your channel. It's Ryan Dozier AI. But are you still publishing a video a day, or what is your cadence right now?
No, I can't do a long form video a day. Short form videos I can do one a day,
Okay.
but long form I'm trying to do probably one or two a week, trying to make that higher quality versus just ripping out low quality long form.
Okay. And so you're in the AI world. You've got a marketing background. Maybe give people your background on where you're at, where you came from before we hop into it today.
Absolutely. So my background obviously originates in marketing. I've been in the marketing industry for over 10 years now at this point, working for originally Dotdash Meredith. So I was running paid ads for People Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, and all the big titles that they own. Then I learned SEO on myself, went on my own after about a year and a half in corporate America. And I've been on my own ever since 2019. So I run a marketing agency where I do lead gen for high ticket clients, mostly in the B2B space. I work with a dental IT client. I work with an affiliate client in the tech space. I work with cash-based medical clients. And so most of my revenue comes from lead gen, but about 20 to 25% of my revenue, like you mentioned earlier, comes from my YouTube channel. And that's not just ads. That is, affiliates, sponsorships, potential leads that come from the YouTube channel. I have a community that, coincides with the YouTube channel as well. So I'm really all over the place, Ryan, is the best way to explain it. But trying to grow the YouTube channel at the same time, trying to scale my agency.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking offline. We met because I was working in the AI automation space because I had gotten sick for a period and wasn't sure what all I could do. So that's how we first come across each other. And I always kind of loved your mentality on the business world because we kind of agree. I think. Well, I don't know. Let me ask before I say this that there's a lot of in the AI automation world, especially AI world that most people talk about. There's a lot of kind of shysters out there promoting fake stuff, but also the shiny object syndrome. Like we talk about it, it is real. And if you get on like Twitter, it's like, oh, this
LinkedIn's
thing
really
just
bad with
yeah, maybe LinkedIn too. I don't see as much as LinkedIn, but I'm on Twitter more. But you're probably right. Chat GPT just died. Gemini just died. Claude just died. Every day something just died, and it's the same thing over and over again. And I don't know if those guys are getting affiliate links or whatever, but I mean, has there ever been a bigger industry where there's shiny object syndrome than the AI space?
I actually think this is the biggest industry where shiny object syndrome is most prevalent. And what you were listing there were called rage bait hooks, where you're basically getting someone to react emotionally because you don't know what you don't know. Holy shit,
Mm.
ChatGPT just died or SEO is now dead. I need to do this. I need to do XYZ. What is this 100 node N8N automation with these agents cranking out all of these videos? I need to drop what I'm doing and then implement this and my business will explode. That is actually not reality whatsoever. And what's funny about that, Ryan, is that business owners or people who don't necessarily have the time to learn all this stuff correctly, they'll fall for that. And then they'll drop what they're doing or they'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on communities and courses and waste their precious time chasing all of these shiny objects. When in reality, what you should do is probably hire an AI consultant who's trustworthy to just spin you in the right direction of where to start, what your business looks like, what are your systems right now, and just get you going on the right track step by step versus just chasing these shiny objects that don't actually move the needle in the real world.
Yeah, and there is a prediction out there I made on your podcast where I said Apple would win the AI wars. I don't know if you remember that or not. And I feel like I'm right. I feel like I'm right because they have now partnered with Gemini. So effectively, Apple won.
Yeah, Apple's always got the hardware and the device game figured out, but I think when it comes to just generalist AI, nobody is going to touch Google. I think 2026 is the decline of OpenAI in my opinion, and then Google's just going to keep going up this rocket ship of how they're just taking over everything with their endless distribution.
Yeah, and I said that on your podcast a little bit tongue in cheek. I wouldn't count them out because they could go by someone, but Gemini right now it is. I was just using it before you got on here, and we talk about YouTube and stuff like that. Obviously, you know, I don't know your theory on this because people will say, well, ChatGPT has your history and it's using it, it doesn't use it, stuff like that. You might have some insight there, but I'm now at the point to where I will put stuff in Gemini, hoping that Gemini is taking that, storing it, and then telling someone else that, hey, this dude's actually doing this because I gave it the information it might not have scraped. So let's just start there. So you're a business owner and you're trying to figure out, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. We won't go into that technical level right now, but how do they understand what's going on in the world? This is January 20th. So how do they understand what's going on today?
Yeah, so you're talking about their training data, right? And how
Yep.
they're
Yep.
training these models. So it differs across the different LLMs, like you mentioned, with OpenAI and ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. But what you need to understand here is that Gemini, owned by Google, of course, their ecosystem is so much bigger than what OpenAI or Anthropic can provide. We're talking YouTube, we're talking Google Search, Google Drive, we're talking Android, we're talking Google Chrome, on and on and on. And so if you're just looking at an LLM and trying to decide what ecosystem should I go all in on, obviously there's nuance to all of this. But Gemini, they actually, funny timing, Ryan, they actually just released something called Personal Intelligence, I think was the title there, where now they're going to start pulling in all of your history and data from YouTube watch history, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Maps, right? Any other flights, any other Google product that you have history on signed into your account that coincides with Gemini, they're going to factor all of that in. And that'll help you tremendously get the better results that you want versus ChatGPT is just using the memory that you've had in their ecosystem since you started. Now, OpenAI has other data, I'm sure, and same with Claude and Anthropic. But again, I just go back to what I said earlier. I just do not see Gemini or Google in general losing this AI race because of all the data that they have. And you may as well use that to your advantage.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't want to get a ton of discussion about privacy laws and all that. We're not lawyers, but you can see, like I have noticed on ChatGPT and Claude, especially here recently. Gemini, I've kind of always assumed some of the stuff that you said, but ChatGPT and Claude have recently seemed to have pushed. Oh, well, you said this a while back, or you're doing this, or this ties in great to what you're doing over here, and I'm like, well, that's not really. I didn't want you to answer from that perspective. Like that may or may not be relevant, but that's not why I'm asking you this right now. And so it is going to be interesting to see how these LLMs battle what they know about you. And then as humans, we ask questions all the time just to get a different perspective, knowing that we already have 47 questions we've already asked, but we want to hear Ryan's perspective on it. We hear Tom's perspective on it, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they fight through that. And so someone like Google, they should have some of that balance because they will see that someone has watched 4 videos on, some kind of AI tool just to hear a different perspective. So hopefully that will come into the equation because right now it does feel a little bit like, oh, they're assuming that because you asked this, it ties into this, and it's like, no, maybe that's why I'm asking, maybe not. So where do you see that trend of the memory going, and then like how they process that?
Yeah, again, I think Google just is going to own all sorts of memory. I mean, the only memory that OpenAI has, again, is in their ecosystem. But you mentioned data privacy, and this is actually funny because someone in my community asked a question. They're like, well, Ryan, I don't want to check this box that lets Google Gemini train off of all my Google data and apps. And I'm like, I hate to break it to you, but they're doing that anyways. So you might as well click it on and use it to your advantage to help you get better outputs. You can provide more context to Gemini. And so that's a thing that people need to understand here is that you may think you're trying to be secure with your data by checking all these settings, but hate to break it to you, Ryan, you already know this. All these big tech companies already know almost everything about us. So you may as well use that to your advantage when you're training and using these AI models.
Yeah, I was with some friends the other day, and I was telling them I'd seen a video about someone arguing that the population in China wasn't nearly as large as they thought it was. And I just mentioned that I hadn't actually watched the whole video. I wasn't sure. I just saw it. I was like, I need to go back and find that, but I didn't know who it was. And like 2 days later, on my Twitter feed, there that video appeared. I'm like, okay, yep, everyone always somehow is watching what you're doing. So you're spot on there. What about so we got AI, we talked about Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, stuff like that. What about Grok? What about Notebook LM? Because that's something that I think that it's kind of categorized by some as AI, but it's not really AI in the same way. So how would you put Notebook LM, and where would you put that at?
So first of all, Notebook LM is one of many Google's AI tools, owned and operated by Google. But the benefit of Notebook LM, and I would still consider it an AI tool, is it's amazing at extracting and synthesizing data. So if you can go in there and upload, depending on your AI Pro or free plan, I think it's like 50, 100, or 200 sources you can upload into Notebook LM, whether that's files, YouTube videos, website URLs, etc. And where this platform excels is the data extraction component. Now, what's so beneficial about Notebook LM versus you could say, well, I'll just create a custom GPT or a Claude project and do the same thing. Notebook LM only extracts from the sources that you provide, meaning that it's not throwing in any random internet data or, Gemini or AI model training data. And it's actually citing inside the chatbot, if you've used this frequently, where it pulled a certain, quote or sentence from the sources that you provided. So in terms of like learning and data extraction, I think this is arguably the best AI tool out there for that.
Okay, so if you're a business owner and you want to document your SOPs, this is a great spot to have that to resource. But so where's the threshold? Because it's not pulling from outside sources. If you're trying to improve something, you say, well, this is, document ABC we have in Notebook LM, but how do we improve it? Can it help you there? Do you got then Gemini? Like, how do you? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so you can obviously use it for data extraction first, and it all depends on the quality and quantity of data that you're uploading. It's no different than using any AI model. But then from there, you can just use that chatbot that's powered by Gemini. I think it's Gemini 3 Flash is the model, and then just chat with it from there. But what's even also cool, Ryan, is that you can pull up the Gemini app, and then there's now an option to add a Notebook LM notebook from the same account. So you can use the Gemini app and then have a Notebook LM notebook training behind it, and then just go on from there of what you want to ask it.
Okay, so this world.
Are you following along there?
Yeah, no, that's great because I think about predictions that we probably all had, 5 years, 10 years ago, and you sit here today and you go, I have no idea where this is going because, I mean, if you go back to 2023, 24, like where some of these tools are at, like we'd laugh at them. It's almost like having the old Nokia cell phone now, versus the iPhone. It's laughable at uh, how far back. I mean, how quickly you can go back in time and look at stuff and go, man, that was so weak. So as we stand here today, not gonna hold you to this, of course, but like this time next year, where are things gonna be at?
I think in terms of, here's my kind of prediction on this whole thing. I think in terms of general AI use, I think Google is just going to reign as king unless, there's some random startup that comes out of the woodwork and has all this, funding behind it, or they self-sabotage. Those are really the only options there. So I think Google's the generalist AI king as they'll continue to expand and update their video models, their image models, their text models, etc. But when it comes to enterprise, and I would argue mid to large businesses, I actually think Anthropic is a pretty big player here, mostly because of Claude Code on the technical side of things, but also Claude Opus 4.5 arguably is my favorite model right now for all sorts of business uses. We're talking potentially research, even copywriting, coding. I don't do a ton of coding, but all the, I would say, qualified and legit people that I talk to in that space, it's always Claude Opus 4.5. There's not even a second thought on what a second tier coding model might be. So I think from enterprise big business, I think Anthropic is going to be the one to capture a lot of that market share. Now, Microsoft is still a big player here. We can't discount them, obviously, with all the market share they have with their Office suite in the enterprise world. But then the AI generalist, it has to be Google. I'm so bullish Google in that regard. I just do not see anyone touching them in the long run.
And it's talking about how things have changed. I mean, I have you here and Gemini here, so it felt like I don't know 2 months ago you asked Gemini a question and it was like a 1870s British royal family members? Like, that's a great question, sir. It's key to understanding everything. And now,
Well, what's funny, Ryan, is that
go ahead.
Google Bard used to be the laughing stock of
Yeah,
AI. If you remember
yeah,
Google Bard, and then once
yeah. It
they
was,
transitioned to
yeah.
Gemini and got their shit together, pardon my French there, it has been nothing but up and to the right. And then OpenAI has kind of, I would say, kind of, plateaued and then starting to slowly decline in 2026. That's just my perspective on it.
Yeah, no, I think that Gemini is definitely, it's crazy how fast it's come along. ChatGPT, it does seem to get stuck, and Claude as well at times. It does seem to get stuck in just giving you the same answer over and over again, even though it told you that answer wouldn't work, especially and or hallucinating and stuff like that. So Gemini does seem to have, um, I'm interested with this Apple thing. I'm thinking about that. Sorry, my brain's going to million spots. Okay, so if you're an owner, what I'm trying to do is help owners understand how to become more valuable. So we talked about Notebook LM. And so Notebook LM, your SOPs, all your documents, they can go there. You can create multiple Notebook LMs, contact Ryan. He can help you set that up, I guess, Ryan. That's kind of, so, but also, you said SEO. Well, we hear a lot about AI SEO. So, okay, I'm an owner. I might want to sell my business. I want to have more leads. I want to create a more valuable business. I want to have a moat. Part of the thing with Google that we haven't talked about is, I mean, you've touched on it, but we haven't really just nailed home is they have a moat because they have all the data. So you kind of talked about ChatGPT, but if we're being honest, it's on some level they just have more data than everybody else. Like, so unless China has some tool that's scraping everything and put it somewhere, it's gonna be impossible to beat Google because they just have so much data. So if you're an owner right now, and you're going, okay, well, I can't have the data of Google, but how do I own the SEO world? Is it possible to own the SEO world in the future with AI? Or is that kind of myth, like that shiny object stuff? Like, where does that play at? Quick break here. I don't do ads on this podcast, and so this is an ad for the Exit Ready cohort. You can find a link below. If you're a business owner and you're thinking about selling, I don't care if it's 1 year or 5 years, you need to be a part of this so that you make sure your company is worth the most it can be when you go to market.
This is great timing, Ryan. I just released a podcast with a guy named Bernard Huang who owns ClearScope. So if you want to leave that in the description below, where we had a great conversation on this exact topic of not just SEO, but you can call it AI SEO, AI search, AEO, answer engine optimization, GEO, generative engine optimization. There's so many new acronyms for what you're explaining here. But here's kind of my hot take on this, right? If you're a small, or I would argue mid-sized business, I actually think this is a giant shiny object trying to show up in AI search. And the reason is that most small to mid-sized businesses, they have limited resources, right? That means limited talent, limited marketing budgets. So you are better off spending your limited resources on other marketing tactics that actually move the needle, right? So that would be local SEO, which is obviously different from AI search and national citations, whether that's personal branded content on social media. Personal branding is a huge thing in this world. Paid ads with qualified tracking and good landing pages, right? Segmented email campaigns, right? Those are just some other marketing strategies I would actually implement before I go down the shiny object of AI search. Because the reality is here, not only are these citations changing all the time, whether you type something into ChatGPT, you type something into Gemini or Claude, it's not going to be the same citation for a week or even a few days. These are always changing. So are you going to waste time and resources trying to chase these citations that, by the way, Ryan, they don't even go back to your website. They don't provide a link anymore. It's just providing an answer. So if someone gets that answer, they're probably not going to go visit your website. Yes, you might have helped with good branding and spinning the narrative here. But I think for AI search, it is actually better suited for big brands, enterprises that want to control the narrative in their industry. Think of like a Coca-Cola or a PepsiCo or an Apple or a Verizon, right? Some publicly traded big time companies. AI search makes a lot of sense for those types of companies because they need to control the narrative on their industry. And they have so much market share already that losing clicks on a ChatGPT or a Google AI overviews or Gemini is not as big of a deal to them versus some small to mid-sized business who needs to rely on these types of traffic to their website to generate revenues. What I'm elaborating on kind of makes sense to you.
No, yeah, I mean, I think it's perfect because I was looking at, you mentioned the branding thing, and I was looking at my YouTube channel, which I've just really started the last 28 days. And actually, I hired someone that you mentioned, Roberto Blake. I heard about him from
Yeah.
you about a short split strategy. 'Cause I want to understand that, and so I've been using that some. And I'm just looking at the numbers here. They're not big round numbers. They're little round numbers. So in the past 28 days, 34,000 views, 91 watch hour time, 91 hours of watch hour, and 20 subscribers. Okay, and that's just getting started. That's okay, cool. But part of what you said there made me think of this because part of how we've done this is we've interviewed a bunch of people, but we've recorded a ton of shorts. And the reason we've been able to record so many shorts is I've had AI help me come up with questions to have my wife ask me to record shorts, right? And so there's a big debate over shorts and clients and all this stuff, and I ain't trying to get in all that. I'm just saying, just to try to get the stuff out there right now, which is what I'm trying to do more than anything. 5 years ago, like, how would you come up with all this content? Where would you get all this stuff from? How would you? And so we are in an age of abundance in the sense of you can talk to someone, oh, this is the strategy. And like, well, how would I do that strategy? I'm not a great speaker. I can't do it. Okay, well, I can have ChatGPT come up with, and there's a stack of of 100 questions. And so we just gone through them. And some of them are like, yeah, I'm not going to answer that. It's not good for short. So not perfect. But the age of abundance has really helped. And then I just released a video on YouTube. It's like an hour and a half long. And, I used AI to help understand how to frame what we haven't talked about perplexity. I've used perplexity to help research these topics to make sure I'm covering the things I want to cover. So to your point about AI SEO, it might be a shiny object for smaller people, but how can they use it from branding standpoint to help them get their brand out there? And again, I'm not trying to get into the debate of shorts versus long form, which converts more, but like just the scalability of branding right now, it seems to be at a premium.
Yeah, and what you just explained there actually prompted me to kind of explain what I would do if I were a small to mid-sized business owner and you're trying to come up with some sort of content strategy and how you can use AI to help with that. I am so bullish on YouTube, Ryan, going forward. I don't think that AI search is going to impact YouTube search results. So people need to understand this. YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine on the internet behind Google, owned and operated by the same company. And a lot of times, if you go to Google search, you'll get YouTube video results. Not to mention, where do you think Gemini is getting some of its citations from? YouTube video transcripts, YouTube video titles, right? So that's one element. Not to mention this, Ryan, if you have a consistent long form video strategy, we're in the trust recession right now. Let's just be completely honest about this. AI is destroying trust every single day. So if you're trying to come out and be an authentic business owner and trying to sell something and build trust with people, you need to do authentic long form video and then use AI to remix and repurpose the rest into short form content variations. That could be short clips. That could be email newsletters. That could be SEO optimized blog posts. That could be social media posts, depending on what your platforms are. So in order going forward, and this is what I always tell business owners who hire me for consulting, if you want to have a legitimate content strategy that actually converts to something, you need to do consistent, long form, authentic video and then let AI rechop, repurpose the rest of it for different mediums.
Well, and on that, long form video, I think that part of the thing is, and I'm not sure this is a shiny object, but you will hear people talk about, you need to have, shorts don't convert, and I'm not disputing that. Shorts won't convert to clients. But there is just a simple question of how many clients a month do you need? Like, we've got to start there. Like, that is the real launch point. Like, how many clients a month do you need? Is it 1 million? Is it 100? Is it 10? Like, where do we come in at? And then understanding that, okay, well, these long forms, to your point, if you do, I'm curious your opinion on what I'm calling the casual long form, not really edited, just kind of you talking. You might get 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 views, and you're not going to go Mr. Beast and get millions of views. But if you're saying from a trust standpoint, that's what you need, then yeah, you can do that. You can have AI help you understand the questions, and then the ones that you're not comfortable answering, you don't got to answer. I'm not saying have AI write this. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a very lucrative niche, especially in the B2B space, and you're doing, some service-based business, 1,000 views on a long-form video is extremely valuable, right? I mean, think about 1,000 people sitting in a room listening to you give a speech or some presentation. That's probably a similar connotation that a lot of business owners might not think about, right? Those are 1,000 qualified people watching a long form video of you spending their time and energy to hear what you have to say. So don't get discouraged if you're not getting 200 million views like a Mr. Beast. That's an entertainer. That is a completely different audience. And if those same people consume the content that you're creating, that probably wouldn't move the needle anyway. So you always have to think about the quality of viewers versus just pure quantity that can, by the way, be faked anyways with paid bot traffic.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like you can see these numbers, and yeah, you can definitely fake it. Okay, so um, long form, authentic. Um, you've been doing this YouTube for a while, since I've known you, and longer than that. And I think I said you're at 30, whatever it was, 31, 32,000 earlier. And so you're saying, okay, owners, um, you need to be doing this. If I'm an owner, I'm going, do I have to do it, or can my team do it? And if it's my team, can it be different members of my team, or does it need to be one person on my team?
Honestly, if you're the owner and you're the name behind the brand, I would highly recommend that you do it, because team members come and go, right? People quit, they get fired, whatever. Well, if someone starts to build a relationship with, let's say, Joe on your team, and Joe gets fired or Joe quits, well, now they're going to lose a little trust because now there's a new face coming into the equation, right? So yes, I know business owners, they're very busy and they say, I don't have time all the time. But if you can literally use AI to help you script, help you come up with ideas, and all the other little things that go into actually recording videos, and then have someone on your team help with the rest, whether that's filming, production, editing, where all you need to do is give 30 minutes of your time, 30 to 60 minutes of your time every week to sit down in front of a camera and talk, and let everyone else do the rest. That is going to pay extreme dividends for you. And then something else quick too. I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but let's say you have team meetings. Well, if you have AI note takers, you can automatically take those transcripts and then use that to train whatever other AI models you're using and help with social posts, emails, etc. So that's another quick tip there. If you're already using AI meeting note takers, then just use those transcripts to help with everything else.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think this is where it gets hard. So the balance is shiny object, 15,000 node NADN thing that's going to do the whole world. It's not, right? Okay, there's shiny object, but also using AI can help you in so many ways. And so you don't want to get left behind, and you don't want to spin your wheels doing shiny object stuff. So like, how do you find that balance? Like, is it start in a certain area, then go to the next area? Like, how do you strike this balance?
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before, Ryan. The very first step is to figure out, what are your pain points? What is taking you a long time to do? What are some tasks that you dread doing? They're important and they're taking you hours, or taking team members hours and hours to accomplish. I would start there and just write down those top 3 to 5 tasks. And then step two, once you do that, is figure out, well, how can I use AI and automations to help accomplish those tasks while not dropping quality off of a cliff too, right? And you can obviously hire a consultant to help with that. You can maybe try to find YouTube tutorials to help with that, and all the other research elements that go into it. But yeah, then from there, once you have the tasks lined up, then you need to figure out, how do I use AI and automations to help me with that? I would also really think about, what does my data look like? What do my existing systems look like? Because if you're going to go in here and implement automations, AI tools, AI agents, it's actually only going to amplify chaos if you don't already have your systems and your data cleaned up. And I think a lot of business owners really miss that point. They want to dive straight into an agent, straight into an automation, straight into AI, without thinking about, has my CRM been cleaned up in 2 years? Are my systems broken? Does my lead form fire correctly if I have a lead come to my website and fill out a form? Just little basic things like that. If you don't have those solved, you should not be going down the AI automations agents rabbit hole anytime soon. You need to clean up your shit first before you start exploring AI.
Preach, brother, preach. Preach, because
I
see
say
that
it
all the
all the
time.
time. No one wants to hear it. It's not popular advice.
It's not. It's not, because it's like, well, as an owner, you might get familiar with, you might get, you're familiar with your business, the pros, the cons, the strengths, the weaknesses, stuff like that. But But the new person, if you're talking about buying a business, they're not familiar. The agent is not familiar at all. The agent is just going to do whatever you say to do in the order you say to do it in. If that doesn't work, it's just not going to work. And so part of this process for owners is we become very comfortable with our business. You, me, every owner. But when you implement AI and automation, it's trying to do the best that it can based upon the flow that you've given it. And if that's not set up well, it's just not going to work. Like, and there's no way around that. It's just not, AI is not to the spot yet where it can fix that.
AI just amplifies chaos, as I just previously said,
Yeah.
right? Business owners want a silver bullet. They want a quick fix if something's broken. But the reality is AI is only going to make those problems worse.
Okay, so how far do you think we are from AI? Like, you build an automation, and it doesn't work, and then Gemini hops in there and it figures out why it doesn't work, and it's because you hadn't cleaned the CRM up, and then it goes and cleans the CRM up. Like, how far are we from that ever happening?
Well, let's dig into that, Ryan, because what does it mean to clean up a CRM? You could ask AI to go in there and clean up a CRM, but is it going to do it correctly as you would clean up a CRM, right? We don't know that. You're not giving AI any context and you're just assuming that it's going to get the job done. So that's a very bad mindset to have as a business owner, is just assume that AI knows what you do and is going to accomplish the task in a similar manner that you would, which is not true unless there's context provided.
Well, and I think that I love that the way you said that, because um, a lot of owners will say they want AI in their business, but they need automation in their business, and they don't need automation. They need to clean up their books or the CRM or whatever, and then install automation. And so if you're taking, with humans, you can sit down and ask those questions and get clarification and tone of voice, all that stuff. With AI, it's just, this is what I need, and it's going to struggle to understand that. And we kind of project it can do a lot more than it can because it responds to us, but we don't really realize that, oh, it's, to your point about cleaning up the CRM, well, it's going to clean the CRM up, but how good is it going to do? Is it going to do it like you want it to? Is it going to understand the nuance of what you're actually looking for? And I think a lot of humans, whether you're an owner or not, assume it will, and maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Well, this is the value of something like Claude Code, right? I don't know how much you've explored Claude Code, where you could actually record yourself on your screen and then create a Claude skill. So that skill understands what you just did, whether that was cleaning up a CRM, whatever the task you just accomplished. Well, now you've just trained a skill. So that's kind of an SOP now for AI going forward, where if you need that exact same task done, it's going to retrieve that skill and then perform that task ideally a lot better than what it did without the direction or without the skill. And you can keep refining these skills. That's the benefit of a Claude Code, as I've explored this more and more here recently.
Okay, so if you're an owner right now, I think Notebook LM, if you're using Google, is something that they should be using. Maybe Microsoft has something similar. I don't know. Do they have
It's called Copilot. So it's
Yeah, I've heard of
Microsoft's
Copilot.
Copilot.
Yeah, I haven't tried it though. Does it work kind of like Notebook LM does?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not in
Okay.
the Microsoft
Okay.
suite, but everyone that
Same.
I talk to is not a big fan of it.
Okay, that's kind of what I've heard, but I haven't tried it, so I don't want to act like I'm an expert on Copilot. Okay, so Gemini, Notebook LM. Gemini is going to improve. I think we agree there. What about something like Perplexity? We haven't talked about that a lot. Is that something that owners should be looking for? Should they be trying to make sure their content ranks in Perplexity? Again, going back to that shiny object in the AI, the AI SEO you talked about a minute ago. Is that even worth their attention right now?
Personally, I don't think so, with the million things that business owners have to juggle. If you're doing any sort of research related task, Perplexity might be an option that you can throw in with a Gemini 3 Pro. But again, Gemini and Google just have so much market share that it doesn't make sense to prioritize time on Perplexity. It's a great tool for research, but if you're trying to sit here and trying to rank in Perplexity, that's probably not the best use of your time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say, I would say what I've found is, for like my YouTube videos, I'm trying to, like, I will know something to be true, or I have heard it and I've said it as if it's true, and I'm like, hey, where is this stat from? It's very good at going and finding that stat, and Gemini can do that as well, so you might, but I like Perplexity, just personal preference for that, for researching stuff. The deep research functionalities, that's a different discussion. I'm not too sure I'm a fan of those. But anyways, okay. So you're an owner right now, and you're like, okay, hey, I need to set up a Notebook LM. I need to kind of understand Gemini. It sounds like Ryan's saying ChatGPT, I can cancel my subscription there. I don't really need any more. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
A lot of nuance to that. And I actually just made a tutorial recently on my channel
I
about
was trying to
this.
get you to rage bait.
Now, the reason I bring that up is because I recently made a tutorial on my YouTube channel about how you can actually export your ChatGPT memory and data to your
Mm,
computer and then use that for other AI platforms. And I think that's very important you do that. And that's why I stuck around with ChatGPT for 3+ years, is because of all that memory, all that
hmm
data that it has on my 3+ year history of conversations, which is obviously extremely valuable. Now, it's still a decent product for only $20 a month. I mean, GPT 5.2, I think, is their top model right now.
Yeah.
It's actually a very smart model. It's decent at most things. And if you're accomplishing things that move the needle with ChatGPT Plus, by all means, like, keep plugging away at it. I'm just saying, if you're getting frustrated with your outputs, there are better options out there, in my opinion. And that's when I would consider making the jump.
Okay. So based upon that, if I'm an owner and I'm like, okay, I need certain things for certain departments in my company to do certain tasks. Is that Notebook LM? Is that custom GPTs? You mentioned Claude Code. Does that tie in? Does Gemini like help them understand where to go for stuff like that?
There's a ton of nuance, Ryan, just like anything. But first, I would ask, what ecosystem are you using, right? So if you're using Google's AI ecosystem, a business suite with Business Drive and emails, Gemini is a no brainer. Pay for that premium plan, whatever it is, because it already has all of that business data that you're using the Google suite for. If you're doing a lot with Microsoft, you're in the Microsoft suite. A lot of people might not know this, but Microsoft's a big time investor in OpenAI. So there's probably some congruency there with training data and Microsoft, between OpenAI and ChatGPT. And if you're already using ChatGPT and you have a Microsoft suite, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind to just drop that, go to Gemini or go to Anthropic without any sort of context or history or data that you've been using previously. Now, just scratch that if you're not using Google's AI or Google's business suite or Microsoft's business suite, or if you're using something else, then it might be time to explore an Anthropic like Claude. If you're doing anything related to content creation, copywriting, coding, that's where I would look more at Claude Code. Or if you're doing anything more research related, it might be time to look at Perplexity. If you're doing anything more just media generation related, but you're not on Google's ecosystem already, that's where maybe a subscription to Gemini Pro, or I think it's called Google AI Pro at this point, that might be worth looking into as well. But as I'm rambling here, it's important to understand what business suite are you already using for your day to day. And then I would make a decision based on that.
I'm with you. And I think that ChatGPT has done a good job, and I've used ChatGPT for a bunch of stuff, so I'm not hating on OpenAI, um, of creating the custom GPT. And so they will be sticky in the market until other platforms create something akin to the custom GPT, because as a lead magnet, marketers are using custom GPTs all the time, right? And so until other platforms have something that can go out as lead magnets, um, people will be hesitant to leave ChatGPT, but it's not the best platform for all things. And I love it. I've got a ton of stuff in ChatGPT. I use it every day probably just to bounce stuff off of it. But I do think that that is a unique edge that, to your point about Google, they can scrape the internet and they have all this data, they have all this stuff. Great. But honestly, do people really care if they have a custom GPT, right? And that's going to be some of the. I mean, it will go
And
away
you've gone
eventually.
back to branding, Ryan. You talked about branding before. Think
Yeah.
about the branding power of ChatGPT or even a custom GPT. Nobody knows what a Google Gem is. Well, that's Google's version of a custom GPT, right? So you talked about the branding, and that's where OpenAI did such a great job with this back in 2022, I believe, where now if someone says AI, ChatGPT kind of coincides with that from an initial reaction. If someone says GPT or custom GPT, the light bulb clicks now for most people, versus project or Google Gem or a module inside an automation or an agent, right? GPT and Chat GPT has some really good branding power right now.
And again, this is not a pro con of anything. It's just to push out there the idea for owners going, okay, hey, I've used custom GPTs, and it might be for what you're doing, a custom GPT is good, but it might be Notebook LM is better. It might be a Claude. Yeah, there's a bunch of different options. So reach out to Ryan Dozier, let him sort all that out for you.
And
So
that's the thing, Ryan. There's just so much nuance to this,
yeah,
right? It's not, He said I should be using Claude. He said I should be using Gemini. He said I should be using ChatGPT. Well, what should I do, right? Well, again, it's back to what are your existing systems? What are your existing tools? And where does your data lie? There's so much nuance to that answer based on what a business owner is doing in their day to day. For me to just sit up here and say, drop what you're doing and go explore Gemini, I would be doing a big disservice to your audience.
And that's why I like you. You know that. So I will just give you my full suite, and you can give yours, and we'll wrap this up here. So I use Gemini, I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use Perplexity. I will use Grok if I'm like really curious and want a different opinion, but don't really use it right now. As far as most to least, I use Gemini probably the most, and then Claude probably second, and then ChatGPT probably third, and then Perplexity. I use it a lot, just again, but that's more of like, hey, I need a stat for this. Hey, this, and I just found it's good for that kind of stuff, at least in the workflow that I have. You might say, no, Ryan, you're an idiot. Use Gemini for that. Okay, but for what I'm using, it's been pretty good for that. So, what is your kind of ranking? How are you kind of using them? So, if an owner goes, yeah, there's a lot of nuance here. What are you two guys doing? So, give them that perspective.
Yeah, I probably use Gemini and Claude. I would say way more than I'm using ChatGPT. I actually canceled my Plus subscription recently. And so anything that is, I would say, related to research or media generation or even web search, it's Google Gemini. Google has the best AI image model right now called Nano Banana Pro by far, in my opinion. They have the best video model right now called VO 3.1. You could argue Sora and Kling and some of these others, but it's Google. They have YouTube at their disposal where they can have billions and billions of hours of footage to train their AI video models from going forward. So yeah, anything media generation related or research or just general quick search related, it's Gemini 100%. Anything that involves, I would say, a little more thought, whether that is copywriting, whether that's a reasoning prompt, whether that is coding or anything more technical, it's hands down Claude for me. I think Claude Opus 4.5 is probably the best AI model right now for general business use. Gemini 3 is probably the best AI model right now for general personal use. And so those are some things I'm using Claude for. Again, I've explored Claude Code a little bit. I won't go down that rabbit hole. I actually don't use Perplexity or Grok a lot in my workflows. I use make.com still for automations, which is an alternative to N8N or Zapier. And so I'm using a tool called OpenRouter in between that to transfer between the models, but that's a little technical there and a little down the rabbit hole. But those are kind of my systems right now, Ryan. You know, I'm exploring AI tools and a ton of different setups here and there, but I've really stuck to really a main, I would say 3 to 5 platforms and don't try to venture too far off from there in my day to day.
Yeah, and with Perplexity, I would say I can probably use Google Gemini for that. I've just used it. It's like, okay,
It's a good point too, right? Because people need to understand that not only ChatGPT, but Perplexity and Claude, where do you think they're getting their
yeah,
responses from?
right,
They're still
right,
retrieving results from Google search, from Bing
yeah,
search,
that's
and
right,
from whatever other
that's right,
training data that they're using.
that's right. So Perplexity, if I cancel my account, blame him. There he is. Blame him. So no, I do like it, but it's not critical that you're talking through it. It's like, yeah, there is a lot here, and I don't know at what point we go from BlackBerry to iPhone in the AI world. I tend to think that that's probably closer than a lot of people anticipate. So, it's been wild the past year or two, but at some point it does got to level off. It's just how things go. And so, do you have any guess from like when, like, how far in the future to like, oh, it's like an iPhone update, right? It's cool, but it's not. We ain't leaving the BlackBerry no more. Like, how far in the future is that kind of level off period?
We're just, again, I said this many times previously, there's going to be a mass consolidation here. So
Yeah.
there's,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
millions or thousands of different AI tools out there. There's, hundreds of different random tools going on. Well, what you need to understand here is that it's going to really consolidate. So Claude Code, right? They just came out with Claude Cowork. That one update alone probably
Mm-hmm.
eliminated dozens of startups,
Mm-hmm.
right? Google Gemini just had a big email inbox cleaning feature.
Yep. I
That
saw
right in
that. Yeah.
there probably eliminated tons of startups, right? So
Yep.
we're seeing a mass consolidation of the big three, you could argue big 4 or 5 tech AI companies adding all of these different features that a lot of AI startups are trying to accomplish right now and go very niche, which is actually a very bad idea because like we saw with the Claude Cowork, like we saw with the Gemini inbox assistant, All it takes is one update from one of the big AI companies and your startup is gone. So it's just a mass consolidation of the top 3 to 5 big tech, big AI companies, which are, Google, Anthropic. We still have XAI in the mix. We still have Meta in the mix, I would argue as well.
Oh,
And then
Meta,
obviously
Meta. Is Meta in the mix? At least
they
you
have so
think
much data and market
they
share, Ryan.
do?
And
They do have a bunch of
so you
data. That's
can't
that's
count them
fair.
out.
Okay, I mean, okay. Yes, okay, Zucks, you're right. You're in the mix. I don't ever use their stuff. Yeah, but you're right.
I
They do
don't
have a
either.
ton of data.
Amazon's still in the mix too, but they're heavy
Yeah,
backers of Anthropic, which owns
right,
Claude, right? And so
right.
here's a spicy little hot take that I might have for this year or next year. And I'm probably going to be way wrong when I say this, but I want to get this out here just in case it does happen and I look really credible. I could see a situation potentially where it's almost a full circle moment for Sam Altman at OpenAI and Elon Musk at X. Now, for those who don't know, Elon Musk was actually one of the original board members of OpenAI. So he helped get OpenAI off the ground. And then him and Sam Altman had a big falling out. But I think what might happen here is OpenAI declines, XAI might decline on the market share. They might come together at some point and try to compete with the Googles, with the Anthropics, with the potentially Metas or Amazon or Microsoft and join forces together and use their distribution and their power and Elon's wealth and Elon's, political power and all the things that come with Elon Musk with OpenAI's distribution and market share and maybe make a real stain there in the AI market share as is. Again, it's a very spicy take, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
With Elon, I'm not surprised anything happens. And I will say that I don't know. I know we said we wrap it up. But well, last question here. Is it just me or is it just hype? Like I am so tired of X, Twitter. Like I met you through there, and so I like to meet people on the platform. But man, it just is just an exhausting platform. And like I don't. Is that just me? Am I the only person who feels that way?
No, X is I would argue, hub of all the AI updates and news that go on. But
Mm-hmm.
again, most AI updates don't matter whatsoever to your workflow. So if you see some
Yeah.
rage bait
Right.
AI hook or AI update where this changes everything, you're going to lose your job. Oh my God, drop what you're doing. Don't fall into that because I would argue maybe 5 to 10% of all AI updates probably actually matter to your
Yeah.
day to day of what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and for me, the thing was last week, this time, tomorrow, last week, there was talk that we were going to bomb Iran, and like all of the like, it's like, and so I remember telling my family, like, let's turn on Fox News or MSNBC or wherever, let's turn on the news just to see what they're saying, and they were kind of talking about it, but not really. But on Twitter, it's like, man, we're going to bomb. There's fighters over Iraq, and I was like, is this going to happen? Like, what's going on here? And then nothing happened. It's like, okay, was that even news or was that just
Is it
Twitter?
real?
Was it even real? Yeah, it was even real. I don't even know. And to your point about these AI updates and all the rage, but like it just gets exhausting. It's great to go on there and meet people like yourself or other people, but it's off the phone now. I am hopefully gonna, I'll post stuff on there, but man, I am just so. It wouldn't surprise me
Yeah,
if
and I
Elon and
actually lose a
Sam
lot of
partnered.
respect, Brian, for people that thrive on the rage bait, especially in the AI world, but just in general. Like, it says a lot about your character if you're going to rely on rage bait to try to grow a
Yeah,
business or grow an account.
yeah, exactly. Okay, Ryan Dozier AI is where we'll link to the YouTube. We'll tag that on this. RyanDozier.com is the website. Anywhere else you want us to mention before we let you get out of here today?
Probably the school community or
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I would say, or probably it's free to join my school community, ton of AI resources in there. And then LinkedIn's probably the platform where I'm most active.
Yeah, well, so yeah, that's my thing for 2026 is YouTube and LinkedIn. That's where I'm trying to. I will post on those spots, but really trying to focus more on those platforms because I don't like LinkedIn, but it's just it's just not nonstop crazy talk all the time. So I can live with that. So Ryan, it was
Love it.
good to chat with you, brother, and thanks for your time today, man.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Always fun to talk.
That's a wrap. Thank you so much for staying to the end. And if you want to join the Exit Ready cohort, click on the link below or just sign up for the newsletter to make sure that you never miss an update from me about what is going on in the world of exiting your company.